wait a little while, then draw your cards whenever.
Uppel's going to start with a Joe Lisette Island. Play Cloud from Raptor. We are underway here in round number 2. A Temple of Lightning here for Smith. Gonna take a look at the top card. It's a Sphinx's Revelation that's going to the bottom.
And this is a very challenging matchup, game 1 for Mono Blue Devotion. This deck is just not really equipped to beat the card Supreme Verdict. Post-board, it can sideboard in such a way to basically convert its game plan, but he's got to just cross his fingers and hope that Courtney does not find Supreme Verdict game 1.
Judge's Familiar is going to come down, evolve the Cloud from Raptor. Raptor will beat in for 1, so Smith's going to go down to 19, but Uppel did not play a second land. Not sure if he mulliganed it all this game, but what we do know is that there is no second land. That means there is not a turn 3 Thassa coming. Smith going to play a Hallowed Fountain tap before passing the turn back. Uppel gonna untap those 3 permanents, take a draw. It is an island, so second land is here. And Justin did keep his opening hand of 7 cards, so there is a second island. This will be a 2-drop. It's going to be a Tidebinder Mage. That will evolve the Cloud from Raptor, and those 2 creatures are going to attack for 3.
I wonder what Justin's approach is going to be here game 1. It wouldn't surprise me if he basically approached it from the philosophy of, I can't beat Supreme Verdict no matter what, so I'm going to play like it's not my opponent's hand. Give myself the best shot at beating the other cards.
I think that is the best approach. However, in this particular situation, Smith hasn't done anything on turns 1, 2, or 3, so I have to imagine that he does have Supreme Verdict. Then again, he did mulligan, so there's no guarantee of that, as Uppel's going to come across here for 5 points. 5 will be dealt, so Smith's going to go down to 11 before passing the turn back. Now, Uppel does have a Frostburn Word in his hand. He could have played that to evolve the Cloudfin Raptor, but he chose not to, and it looks like wisely, as here is a Supreme Verdict.
Here's a little something left over here. Again, rebuild with a weird. Thassa, I believe, in his hand as well, so if he draws a land here, he can deploy that.
Which he did. So there is your 3rd land, and this is 3 mana, and there is the God of the Sea. So Uppel will place a die on top of his deck to ensure that he does scry on all future turns. Smith gonna draw, play a Mutavault. This is his 5th land. Let's see if he has a Jace or anything sweet to do here. Just a Detention Sphere. The last build we saw of blue-white was a Planar Cleansing build. This one is the Detention Sphere build. So that takes care of Thassa. Uppel will draw a card. Looks to be a Mutavault.
And the Detention Sphere build, much better against Blue Devotion.
Oh, yeah.
Those enchantments are excellent at containing Thassa, Master of Waves, and Mono Blue really doesn't have any way to blow you out for playing them. No disenchant effects, nothing of the sort.
Tidebinder Mage and a Mutavault will come into play before passing the turn back over to Smith. See if Smith maybe has a card like Last Breath here to get that thing out of the way. There are 2 copies of Last Breath in Courtney's deck. Saw that in the previous blue-white match that we watched as well. So that card looks to be relatively popular this weekend, maybe based off of what happened in the Pro Tour yesterday. A lot of red decks yesterday.
Oh, quite a bit.
Yeah.
The Rival Master.
He sure is good. Courtney Smith, 2 mana. That is a Last Breath. Gonna get that Tidebinder Mage out of here. Uppel will gain 4 life. Courtney does not care about that, so Uppel is going to untap, take a draw. You see the Master of Waves over there. And also a Judge's Familiar. Looks like a Domestication in hand.
1 main deck copy in Justin's list. Card we've seen kind of have an uptick in popularity.
Dissolve, going to come down, take care of that Frostmourner. Time for Smith to scry, left it on top relatively quickly. Here's a Judge's Familiar. Maybe it's some poor sequencing there by Uppel. If he leads with the Familiar, then he can counter via the Dissolve.
It's possible at this stage he wants Judge's Familiar more to protect himself against Sphinx's Revelation as much as possible.
Okay.
But it does strike me as probably an error there.
2 mana. Going to play a card before attacking, and it will be a Frostmourner. We're going to fire Mutavault. Going to come across for 3, or at least try. And it looks like it may work here. Here's 2 mana. Maybe a Celestial Flare. It's just going to be a Last Breath to take care of the Mutavault. So Uppel's going to go up to 28.
But as you mentioned, life total not really a factor here. Courtney's going to win arbitrarily if he wins it all.
What Courtney needs, I believe, right now are lands. That's the big issue here. Now, there's a Supreme Verdict. That's going to clear those up. And that's the card that's hard. That's the hardest one for Uppel to beat.
Yep. It's the card game 1 this deck is the least suited to beat.
There's an island and a copy of Master of Waves. Just 1 elemental token's going to come in before passing the turn back. And Elixir of Immortality comes down for Smith. Uppel's going to draw a card. It's an island, so his hand right now is very weak, just an island and domestication. So in comes the Master of Waves elemental token. Again, doesn't want to attack with actual Master because of Mutavault being there.
He loses everything there. And there we go. There's the correct seahorse.
Going to shuffle up and deal now. Looks just going to shuffle everything back in, including itself. So Smith is going to gain 5 life here, push himself back up to 14.
Also gets to put a Last Breath and 2 Supreme Verdicts back into his deck.
Yeah.
All of which are great draws from this spot. And you can see the problem here that Mono Blue has game 1. It's trying to build up this board to take advantage of devotion cards, and it just cannot weather the storm of these spot removal spells and sweepers.
I mean, the most important card for Mono Blue in game 1 is Thassa, and Uppel did draw one. Just unfortunately for him, Smith was able to take care of it via Detention Sphere. Smith's going to play Temple of Enlightenment.
You basically have to make sure that you're drawing gas every single turn. It's the only way to keep up with all of their removal.
Yeah.
Thassa can allow you to do that sometimes, but without it, forget it.
Uppel again with Domestication and Island in his hand. Third card is a mystery at this point. But he's trying to overcome 2 copies of Supreme Verdict and 2 copies of Last Breath that have been cast so far. Not sure if he's going to be able to do that, even though Courtney Smith does not have a win condition just yet. Uppel going to attack here with just the Elemental token again. Smith looks like he's going to go down to 11 very, very quickly. Now there's a Cloudfin Raptor. See if Courtney cares about this at all. The answer looks to be resounding no. So, going to untap that 6th land. Take a draw, Will Smith. This is 4 mana. That's the Supreme Verdict yet again. It's hard to beat 1. It's very hard to beat 2. And I would be very surprised if Uppel can beat 3.
And he still has that dead Domestication in his hand as well.
Uppel draws a card for the turn. It's a copy of Nightveil Spectre. And he is able to, doesn't have to play that land because he's able to play around Syncopate. So there is the 2/3 flyer. That's in there. There's an island, pass the turn back. So Smith does have to contend with that card. It is pretty good in this matchup. Not great, but good.
It gives Justin a shot at least if Courtney is just kind of flooded out here.
And see in Courtney's hand, there was a Dissolve hanging out over there. So here's an attack for 2.
Now if Justin can start finding some counter spells off of this Nightveil Spectre, then things get really good for him.
Yep. Here's a Judge's Familiar, pass the turn back. That one's pretty good against Rev. Smith just has to pass the turn back. Doesn't look all that confident about his position right now.
Very odd for him to take a Nightveil Spectre hit, untap, and not do anything. I mean, that represents a really weak hand.
There we go. There's an Azorius Charm. So that's going to put that on top. Judge's Familiar is going to come across. Smith's going to go down to 8. Uppel looks like he does have a follow-up play here. Maybe.
It's one of those games where things have gone really bad for Justin, but the way things are going, he has just enough hope of being able to maybe steal this game.
Yeah. All it takes is, kind of one rev to undo everything, but at this point, Smith hasn't found one. At least we don't believe so. So it looks like he might be okay. Now, Cloudfin Raptor's on the stack. I think we're deciding we want to counter this or not, because again, Smith does have a copy of Dissolve in his hand, but Smith does know that Uppel is going to draw that Nightveil Spectre, so you might want to save it for that.
Yep. Now, if Courtney has multiple Dissolves, maybe he just wants to scry so badly that he's willing to fire off a Dissolve on a pretty anemic Cloudfin Raptor.
You saw Smith give that some thought before deciding, okay, that's fine, that resolves. What that does is tip his hand. Uppel knows that there's a Dissolve hanging out there now. So Smith is just going to pass the turn back without playing a land. Uppel's going to draw a card. He's going to play Nightveil Spectre right away. I imagine that's going to bite the Dissolve, and it will. So Smith will get the opportunity to scry here. He's going to take a look at the top card. He left it up there very, very quickly. An attack for 1 from the Judge's Familiar is going to put Smith down to 5. Uppel will pass the turn back. Smith will draw a card. This is 6 mana. This is a Sphinx's Revelation. That's going to draw Courtney 3 cards and gain him 3 life. Both parts of that pretty important right now, actually.
For sure. Courtney is pretty close to stabilizing this game. An extra 3 life is a big help there. You see him rev for only 3 in that spot, wants to protect himself from the Judge's Familiar.
Nightveil Spectre comes off the top again. It's going to evolve the Cloudfin Raptor. An attack here for 3 is going to undo what the Revelation did do.
Now, the upshot of this is Courtney cannot stabilize this game with Elspeth. Needs to be another copy of Supreme Verdict.
So he's already cast 3 of them. Now, of course, he just shuffle them back in with Elixir, but can he find a 4th one? And I'm surprised I even have to say that because normally it only takes 1 or 2 to get the job done.
Justin's done a very good job with meager resources. Like you mentioned, no Thassa. He's just kind of casting his little flyers.
Yeah.
Hanging around in this game.
That Mutavault, not going to do anything for Courtney Smith. Again, flyers are the problem at this point. See, Smith is going to organize some mana here. See what spell he wants to play, assuming there is one. And he did just draw 3 cards with Revelation. And then one for his draw step. So you have to imagine there's got to be some sort of action hanging out over there.
But a lot of his action really isn't that good right now. Part of the problem. Jace is very solid.
There's a Font of Fortunes. So that's kind of that slower divination-esque effect.
Yeah, once you get to this spot, you'd much rather have it be divination.
Yeah.
But turn 2, a lot of efficiency be gained from being able to cast a font.
There's a D-Sphere. That's going to take care of the Spectre. I'm sure Uppel would have liked to keep that 2-3. As Uppel does draw a card for the turn. It looks to be a Judge's Familiar. So he's going to cast that pre-combat with the ability to sacrifice that in case anything does go wrong. So here's an attack for 2. Smith is going to go down to 4. And again, I believe all that Uppel can do is just pass the turn back. Again, his last card is Domestication. Couldn't be worse in this matchup. There's a Font. That's going to draw 2 cards. Didn't get a great look at the 2, but Smith will untap all 8 of those lands, take a draw. We'll see what he can find on this turn. Isn't facing lethal just yet, sitting at 4, but there's the potential for Uppel to play something to evolve the Cloud from Raptor to make it lethal.
Yeah, there's the potential for lethal next turn. Though, as you mentioned, not facing it just yet.
Smith will play his 9th land. It's a second copy of Mutavault.
It's been a really weird game. I mean, Courtney's got a lot of cards left over in his hand. I wonder what's going on over there.
Yeah, that's my question, too. You know, it's crazy. You know, a card like Jace Architect of Thought is great right now. He hasn't found one of those yet. This is 3 mana. This might be a card like Banishing Light. Yep. That's going to take care of the Raptor. He's just going to pass the turn back. Uppel's going to draw. It's an island to go along with that Domestication, so it's just an attack here for 2. That's really all he can do. 2 mana. It's going to be a Last Breath. It is. So Uppel's going to go up to a mighty 32. Judge's Familiar looks like it's probably going to get in for that 1 point of damage. We'll see if Smith has a way to kill that. Nope, he's going to take 1, go down to 3.
Just a brave Judge's Familiar,
real tough guy.
Staring into the abyss.
Yeah, real tough guy. You can tell it's Smith. I mean, Smith is close to turning the corner. I mean, he just needs a card like Jace or a Rev to get the job done.
Even a Detention Sphere or a Banishing Light would be fine.
Yeah.
You know, he may be able to win the game just with Mutavault, Beatdown, and removal spells from this spot.
Heck, even Azorius Charm is great.
Yeah. Just about any spell is fine.
It's time to get to work with those Mutavaults, though. Uppel's going to go down to 28, undo one of those Last Breaths. Uppel draws a card. Going to attack for 1. Smith's going to go down to 2.
And Uppel just drew Cyclonic Rift, which
Ugh.
could be really, well, it could be really good in this spot.
Yeah.
Because of all those Detention Spheres. Now, Courtney most likely has counter spells. I don't think Uppel's going to do it just to do it. But if Courtney gets sloppy here, that could kill him even if he stabilizes the board.
This is interesting here if you're going to overload this. And that's why I said that. I don't know if I love the overload there versus just bouncing 1 sphere, get like your Nightveil Spectre back. Or maybe get your Thassa back. I think overloading in that situation, it feels greedy to me.
Yeah, like what's in Courtney's hand right now? I don't even know if I would cast the Cyclonic Rift at all.
Yeah.
Because there's just no way that he has nothing. It's got to be some sort of counter spell.
You know, and that's how I kind of feel about the Master of Waves in that situation too. It's like I believe that my opponent has counter magic. And, you know, the more likely counter spells are dissolve. So I don't want to give my opponent the opportunity to scry either.
Yeah. I think Justin would have been better served just sitting there.
Yeah, is it good to try to ride the Judge's Familiar to victory? It's not great, but it's all I've got.
If something goes wrong, then you can go back to casting stuff.
Yeah.
But giving your opponent a scry there is really risky.
Smith just played a land. Again, he scried his top card to the bottom. This is 4 mana. This feels like a Jace to me. Maybe not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This Elspeth?
Well, that's no help.
No, that doesn't do anything. That's going to take up to 5. 3 soldier tokens are going to come in. Uppel's going to untap pretty quickly. Say, all right, I'm going to try to kill you. There's an Azorius Charm. That'll delay things. Uppel's going to deploy a Frostburn Weird.
And this is the risk of doing what Justin's done here. He might have been able to chain together multiple spells after this.
Yeah, all in the same turn?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead, he allowed Courtney to counter things when Courtney had mana available, and now can't punish him when he's tapped low to cast Elspeth.
Yep. Domestication is going to take care of one of those soldier tokens. That's on Uppel's side now. There's a Frostburn Weird, but there's no getting through on the ground now. Between Elspeth and the soldier tokens and those 2 Mutavaults, getting through on the ground is a hopeless endeavor. However, Uppel does have a Judge's Familiar on top of his deck, and he can try to get that last point of damage dealt that way.
What a noble bird.
Often mocked, but has dealt like 15 this game. So there's that. It's going to resolve. Smith is going to draw this. All right, make 3 more soldiers. There's no way that bird gets the job done. There's no way. Draw a card. Well, I got one choice.
Yep.
I guess you can attack with everybody here, sure. This is good to play around Celestial Flare.
Well, he also has to worry about an emblem being made, too.
Yep. All right, Azorius Charm's going to put that back on top. I wonder if you sack. I think that makes for an interesting game situation. There's some blocks. And the reason I say that is because, you know, is Judge Familiar going to get it done now? Like, the fact that he can make an emblem probably doesn't get the job done. So if you sacrifice to make him pay 1 and you peel Thassa,
yeah, exactly.
Kill him.
That was the card I was going to mention. Thassa gives him a way to get out of this game.
Because Judge Familiar is bad now. Because Courtney can safely make an emblem and attack with all those soldiers and have Mutavault back on defense about the flyer. So
it looked like the game that turn got to a point where Thassa is the only way for Justin to win.
yeah.
Because there's no way he's going to be able to weather the storm of this emblem.
Yeah, no, his flyer plan is out the window then.
Yeah.
It takes Thassa to get the job done.
Now the question is, does Courtney respect the possibility of a second Cyclonic Rift?
Something to be wary of. Here's some manas. There's 4 of them. This may be a Jace. Ah, finally. The Architect of Thought has shown up. So 3 cards coming. Azorius Charm, a Supreme Verdict, and a Last Breath. And yeah, that is going to do it now. So Justin Uppel is going to concede this game. Courtney Smith is going to win game number 1 in a very strange game between Blue-White Control and Mono Blue Devotion.
Justin nearly got it with no Thassa and getting Supreme Verdict multiple times.
Yeah.
But couldn't quite get that last point across.
We're going to go to the sideboards here. Justin Uppel, I imagine, has quite a few counter spells.
He has a Dispel, 2 Dissolves, 2 Negates, and 3 Gainsays. So 8 counter spells he gets to bring in here. A Bind of Thassa, a Midgame Skin, a Jace Memory Adept, a Jace Architect of Thought, a Claustrophobia, and 2 Domestication. I like the counter spells quite a bit here, and I think the Planeswalkers and the extra Bind have some links as well. Try to convert the deck into something where you play 1 threat, protect it with counter spells, and try to generate some card drawing as well to try to outlast Courtney. Post-board, what's really nice the way that Justin set up is he can really fight the game over Sphinx's Revelation. He has a lot of counter spells. So he's unlikely to lose that card. All he needs to do is take the sting out of Supreme Verdict, and by becoming a little less of a curve deck and more of a, you know, fish, aggro control, tempo deck, whatever you want to call it, he can take the sting out of a lot of Courtney's most powerful cards.
This is the strategy that we do see players employ. Mono Blue has a very hard time beating Blue-White Control in game number 1, and they become this, as you said, fish counter sliver-esque deck. Play 1, maybe 2 threats and try to protect them with counter spells, but don't ever put too much on the table like they have to in game number 1. Blue-White Control here for Courtney. He's got 2 copies of Archangel of Thune, 2 Dispel, 2 Gainsay, a Jace Memory Adept, a Trading Post, a Pithing Needle, 2 Celestial Flare, 2 Nyx Fleece Ram, a Fated Retribution, and a Scuttling Doom Engine from M15. Haven't seen a lot of that card. Archangel of Thune is the big one here.
Yeah. So let's go back to the cards that we just talked about from Justin's side. Dispel, 2 Dissolves, 2 Negates, and 3 Gainsays. That means post-board, he's susceptible to non-blue cards and to creatures. His counterspells really don't cover that. So Archangel's awesome in the post-board games. And Nyx Fleece Ram does a lot of the same work, too. It just sort of compels Justin to play more and more to the board, which turns Courtney's Supreme Verdicts back on as being potentially back-breaking cards.
You know, Dispel is certainly good in this matchup for obvious reasons, so you're going to want those in. Maybe you want Dispels here, simply because, you know, you can fight over the counter magic.
Oh, I think Dispel gets very good post-board. Sufficient and answers the best cards that Justin's bringing in against you.
If your plan is to play one threat at a time, Celestial Flare looks very good then as well. So there are definitely some nice options. I've actually seen people board in trading posts in this matchup as well. You know, being able to discard those relevant cards to gain 4 life. 4 life is a lot when your opponent is just attacking with a 2/2.
When they're trying to set up the way that Justin set up here post-board, beating large chunks of life gain is not easy.
So we'll see how players do sideboard. They're shuffling up. We're going to take a quick look here at our modern Premier IQs and our brand new Premier IQs in general. They started a couple weeks ago in Baltimore. I know you were there last weekend in Kansas City where Kent Ketter won his, and it's anyone's guess who's going to win this one.
Yep, so these IQs, they're Premier IQs. Stores can apply for these things, tournament organizers, the same way that you apply for IQs currently. 5K in cash prizes, open points to all participants, top 4 receive invitations to the Invitational, enhanced side event prizes, and much more. So if you're a store interested in these, you can register for them, and you can run them whatever format you want to. We are running modern Premier IQs
Correct.
in the Open Series now every Sunday, 10 a.m. start. We started them in Baltimore. We got about 200 competitors in Baltimore. We got over 100 in Kansas City. And it's the same event, basically, as you see here, 5K in cash prizes. Modern format only at the Open Series. So if you don't have a Legacy deck, if you're really passionate about Modern play, you can have some high-level Modern play every weekend in the Open Series.
Yeah, we're happy that we're able to finally bring it over to you guys. Modern is a format that is increasing in popularity quite a bit, and so we're glad that we can finally bring them over to you. Now, of course, a lot of players wondering, are you guys going to, remove your Legacy coverage? Absolutely not. That's not going anywhere.
No, part of the reason that we came up with these Premier IQs and had Modern occur on these Sundays is because we didn't want this to interfere with our coverage or our support of Standard or Legacy. So it's just an additional tournament. It's not replacing Legacy.
Of course, you do see some stores that are already running these bad boys. Tampa, Florida, Tacoma, Washington, right around where I'm from. Or I wouldn't say from, where I live. Knoxville, Tennessee, Denver, Colorado, and Roseville, Minnesota. More coming in 2014 and presumably 2015 as well. So if you do want to get these in your local store, it's not hard to do. Contact Star City Games Organized Play Program. We can get them all set up for you guys. You can run them there. You can come to them here on the Open Series. As we do head back to our match now. Again, both players going to lay out their opening hands. Justin Uppel almost got game 1. Got Courtney down to 1, but Smith was able to stabilize and turn the corner pretty quickly with an Elspeth. So Uppel will be on the play here. Again, sideboarding in a lot of counter magic is what mono blue oftentimes does. Both players going to keep their opening hand. No turn 1 play here from Uppel, but not too much of a surprise. It's the 2-mana creatures, which are the important ones.
Yeah, post board, because Justin is trying to become much more of play 1 threat and protect it. Cards like Cloudfin Raptor are the first thing to get sideboarded out. So Judge's Familiar is still fine on its own. That card stays in, but the cards that are predicated on having a large board get a lot worse post-board.
It's a Frostburn weird for Uppel. A turn 2 Font of Fortunes there for Smith. Uppel will start by attacking for 1. Looks like it's going to be no more than that. That leads me to believe he has a turn 3 play. One thing to keep in mind here for Courtney Smith, there's no white mana just yet. So Uppel's going to deploy a Nightveil Spectre. And that can be problematic, so we'll see if Smith is able to find some white lands. Again, has plenty of them, 7 plains, 4 Temple of Enlightenment, and Azorius Guildgate, and 4 copies of Hallowed Fountain. And there is his first white source in Hallowed Fountain. He did crack the Font of Fortunes to help find that. It looks like he may have to discard here.
So I guess this is a spot where it is arguably better to have Fought instead of Divination.
Yep. Discards the Sphinx as a Revelation, does Smith. Uppel's going to attack here, going to spin the weird. It'll be an attack for 4. Smith is going to go down to 14, trigger the Spectre. Let's see what he finds. It's a copy of Hallowed Fountain. Uppel has not played land yet this turn, so he's going to put that fountain into play, tapped, pass the turn back, presumably leaving up counter magic.
And the way the game has started here, it's unlikely that Courtney's going to be able to Supreme Verdict on turn 4. You know, he Faunted. It looks like he's just found white mana, so.
He does play Temple of Enlightenment. That'll be a second source of white mana. Top card that he's looking at is a Dissolve. Going to go to the bottom. We'll see if Smith is going to cast a spell. Looks like he's going to. Taps 3 mana. This feels like maybe an Attention Sphere. It is. You have to assume that's going to be a counter, so Uppel's going to gainsay that. What makes Supreme Verdict such a backbreak in this matchup is not only does it clear everything up, but it's uncounterable.
Yeah, it's the toughest thing. I mean, Supreme Verdict is the reason that basically the blue-green Evolved deck never really took off. It's just very hard for tempo creature decks to beat that card when you can't protect your stuff with counter spells.
Uppel going to attack in here, spin the weird twice. There's an Azorius Guildgate off of the top. He's going to play that as his land for the turn. puts Smith down to 10, and again leaving 2 mana up for what is likely to be another counterspell, be it Gainsay or Negate.
And Justin's not adding anything to his board at this point.
Nope. This is exactly how he wants the game to go. Now, will he win this game? We don't know, but this is the kind of pacing he wants to have in the game. Get a couple creatures in play, defend them with counter magic. Ideally, one of the creatures you have in play is a Nightveil Spectre, which he does have, but this is why Supreme Verdict's great in this matchup, is they can clean those creatures up, and counter spells can do nothing.
It's one of those cards where you can sideboard as much as you want to make your deck better against it, but it's still going to be one of the best cards they bring to the table. Now, the way that Justin sideboarded, Mutavault becomes a much better weapon for him post-board. It's part of the, it fits so naturally into the game plan, but he hasn't found any just yet.
Uppel will deploy another copy of Nightveil Spectre, going to play an island, and he's going to pass the turn back over to Smith. So now he just wants to rebuild what he initially had, which is one creature providing a clock and defending it with counter magic. As a lot of the cards that Smith will play aren't horribly relevant, so you just have to counter the relevant ones, assuming that you can counter them.
Yeah, he's got a lot of dead draws in the deck. Or not dead, but not the most productive at this point.
You know, ideally for Uppel, he can pick and choose on what he wants to take care of with those counter spells. Now, sometimes they don't line up appropriately, Gainsay and Last Breath, for example, but we'll see if he does have the correct counter spells to get the job done, as here is a Jace. And this is the kind of threat here from Smith where it's like, do I want to counter this with Uppel? Do I not? The answer is yes. Negate will take care of that.
I think you definitely fight over Jace. Uppel's got so many counters in his hand, he just has to cast them on something, and Jace is more than good enough. And
now he has another counter. Not in his hand, but on the Spectre. It's a Dissolve. Uppel's draw for the turn was a Dispel, so revealing Dissolve there is huge.
To me, it almost feels like Dissolve is potentially supposed to be sideboarded out from the blue-white deck. It's not really that great against the Gainsay Dispel sideboard package, and whenever this happens, forget about it. This is a disaster.
That is a Last Breath. Uppel is going to cast the Dissolve. Now, the interesting thing there is he does have a Dispel in his hand. I don't know if I'm in love with casting the Dissolve there.
I think he wants to get in while the getting's good. Depends on what other counters you have left over in your hand, but if you're worried you could lose this Nightveil, if you don't want to have to fight over every Azorius Charm and whatever, just cash in the Dissolve when you have an opportunity to do so.
Okay.
It's close. I think the play's close.
You know, just the range of spells that Dispel can counter is smaller, of course, than the range of spells that Dissolve can counter.
Yeah, it's just, you know, do you want to cash in your chips while you can with the Nightveil Spectre?
Uppel going to deploy a Frostburn Weird instead of casting that Archangel of Thune, as here is a Revelation for one. Uppel has no interest in fighting over that, so that is perfectly fine if that's how you want to use Revelation, says Mr. Justin Uppel. So, going to pass the turn back over to Smith. Smith with 6 lands in play, hasn't played his land yet for the turn, has the ability to go up to 7 mana. But Uppel's leaving up yet again just a counter wall.
And you have to imagine he's got quite a few in his hand if he was not willing to deploy that Archangel last turn with white mana in play that he's stolen with the Nightveil Spectre.
Looks at Immortality. Uppel says immediately, that's fine, I don't care about that. It's annoying that you get to gain 5 life, but I'm not going to waste a counter spell on that. Everything going to plan thus far for Uppel. He's already made his way through 1 Supreme Verdict. And it's so important for Smith to draw another one now.
Disaster hasn't struck. Justin's still with numerous counter spells left over in his hand. This is kind of to the T how Blue Devotion wants to run these post-board games.
Uppel going to draw his card. It's an attack here for at least 3. Could be more.
I think Justin may go all the way upstairs with
That's
this,
a lot of mana.
With this Frostburn Weird.
2 mana here. That is an Azorius Charm. I like fighting over this. I'm not in love with that.
It seems like that's a good spot for Dispel at least.
There'll be some pumping here of the Weird. Spectre's just too good in the matchup that I don't want to have to go through the trouble of having to redeploy it.
Well, the bigger issue is I can easily imagine losing the game with Dispel in hand.
Yeah.
There's only so many opportunities you get to cash that in.
You know, the question, of course, now is what is he saving the Dispel for? Is it for a Revelation? Because what do I care about Revelation, truthfully?
Yeah, it's not going to be for that much, you know?
That's not the card that I feel like is going to get Smith back in the game. You know, it's kind of that tempo play of, cool, I don't have to worry about the Nightveil Spectre for a turn.
it could be one of those spots where, you know, Justin has to be worried about Supreme Verdict, so he doesn't want the board to get too built up. He has this Tiebinder Mage in his hand that's losing value as the game goes on. So maybe he's happy just saying, I want to keep 2 creatures in play no matter what, and I'd rather have Dispel left over in my hand than a Tiebinder Mage linkering.
Okay. Well, we're going to untap here, as Smith did just play a land and pass the turn back. So Uppel still gripping that Dispel tightly. We'll draw that Nightfell Spectre that we know is on top of the deck. There's also Dissolve. He's going to attack here. See how much he wants to attack. 4. Spin 1 and 2. And let's make it maybe 3. We'll see. And we will. That is a Celestial Flare. And I would be, I would be fine with that. It's still a 2-turn clock.
And this can protect itself from Last Breath.
Yep. And pass the turn back. Smith going to draw a card, sitting at 4 life, facing lethal. Did draw a copy of Archangel of Thune. Going to play a Supreme Verdict, though. That's going to clear that up. So now Uppel, with that Nightfell Spectre still in hand, draws an island. Is going to play the island and the 2/3 flyer.
And that's the difference in the matchup. Game 1, every time Courtney cast a Supreme Verdict, our reaction was, ugh. These games, all right, you killed a Frostburn weird. Here's a new threat.
Smith with the decision to make. Here's 5 mana. This is the Archangel. There's no way Justin's going to let that resolve. Dissolve will take care of that. It's time to scry. Take a look at the top card. Going to leave it on top. This is a Font of Fortunes. That's fine. All that does is draw cards that I can counter. So Uppel will untap all those lands. 9 of them in play. Attack for 2. Smith going to go down to 2. Top card is an Azorius Charm.
Gets to cycle that bad boy.
Yeah.
Find something else.
That's exactly what he's going to do. Almost drew a card off of Courtney's deck. Don't do that. Do not do that. Draws a Gainsay off the cycled Azorius Charm. Smith draws. Gonna cash in that font. Hit 1 and 2. He's looking for Supreme Verdict number 3 right now.
And it almost has to be that, and that alone, because Justin can counter anything else that Courtney produces.
There's a land for the turn. Here's 6 mana. That's a Revelation. There's a Dispel. And we are going to head to a 3rd game here between Courtney Smith and Justin Uppel, as Mr. Uppel able to tie things up with Mono Blue Devotion.
And I think that I might have cast the Gainsay there because you've already shown Gainsay and haven't shown Dispel.
Yep.
This is a small thing, but not every Mono Blue Devotion sideboard has any copies. Has a copy of Dispel. Some have 0. So that is valuable information you're giving away there by showing them that card.
So you see Smith's going to go back to the drawing board. Uppel looks happy with his configuration. I would be too. All these counter spells after sideboard, and that's exactly how you want the games to go. Pace the game in such a manner that you have a threat or 2. You can work your way through Supreme Verdicts, counter the relevant spells, and get the job done. It's not going to be quick, but that's what it takes to win.
And it's a cohesive plan. You can, game 1, you can really only beat blue-white control if their draw fails somehow. That game, Justin, you know, he did get hit with Supreme Verdict. I believe he actually got hit with 2 copies that game, but was able to just kind of truck along with his counter spells and his individually powerful threats.
We'll see how game number 3 goes. These players are shuffling up here. So we're going to talk about our Autumn State Championships now. Now, we had states a little while ago, the Spring State Championships, and we're going to bring it back now in the autumn. Brand new playmat. That's the artwork that you do see on the screen, taking place October 11th and the 12th.
And this is going to be with cons available. So this will be new standard format, which is really exciting too. Our states program has gotten great response. We've had great attendance for it. States back in the day was sort of the constructed pre-release. It was an opportunity for players to build decks with the new cards, participate for a title that mattered to them, and before people really solved the format. So we really enjoy doing the states program, and we're excited to have it coming out right after cons. I mean, I believe this is the weekend after Orlando, so this is going to be very, very new into cons life cycle and standard. 52
locations around the U.S. and Puerto Rico. Exciting new playmat, of course, from Kristen. You can see the artwork that on the screen, excuse me. Champions, your state champions, will get a black and white version of the playmat along with a medal solidifying their state championship status. And open points go to all participants in our state championships. So if you are on the grind to work your way towards buys or qualify for our Players Championship at the end of the year, This is where you want to be, October 11th and 12th. StarCityGames.com/states for more information. Hope to see you guys there for autumn states, as spring states was a huge success. One champion, and I know it was very integral to him actually qualifying for the Player Championship, Chris Van Meter.
Yep.
It was a big deal from that weekend.
The points all matter, and it's going to be, it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint, for Season 3 and Season 4 and the invites at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So all these events matter.
Game number 3 is where we are headed between Uppel and Smith. Looks like Uppel is just finishing shuffling up, and then these players will draw their opening 7. Again, if you just watch Game 2, that's exactly how Justin Uppel wants things to go for Courtney Smith. He wants to be able to interact a little bit more often. He needs to draw those Supreme verdicts, too. That's the big one in the matchup for him.
I think post-board, the most important card for Courtney may be Detention Sphere, because it's cheap, it's efficient, and the way that Justin's playing the games, he's trying to do one threat at a time. Make your land drop and Detention Sphere your play is awesome against someone who's trying to do that sort of thing.
Both players are going to take a look at their opening hands. Again, Courtney Smith will be on the play. Justin Uppel on the draw. And it looks like they're both happy. Again, you do see the time. About 14 minutes to go. And this one's not quick, so these players may have to accelerate their pace of play just a touch if they don't want to get a draw. And getting a draw in an 11-round tournament, not where you want to be.
No, because you're going to be playing against some other people who have already gotten a draw.
Font of Fortunes will be the first play of the game here from Courtney Smith. You see, this time he does have white mana on the early turns of the game. And this could be a card that we do see more of. Hello, I don't think so, Justin.
Oh, that's not the right amount of mana for that gainsay.
There is a Tidebinder Mage. So Smith is going to draw a card. See if he's going to crack this font now. He's going to play a Mutavault to begin things. Again, very important for Uppel to have a threat in the early turns of the game. Did have a turn 2 Tidebinder Mage, so obviously a good start for him, able to pressure the opponent a little bit here.
So if Courtney did not use his font straight away and played a Mutavault instead of it comes into play tap land, I believe that means his hand has either Syncopate or Gainsay.
Okay.
Otherwise, he would be looking for a land that comes into play tapped.
Yeah, Guildgate, Hallowed Fountain, Temple of Enlightenment.
Exactly.
Sure.
So I don't know if Justin's up on it, but I would suspect that Syncopate or Gainsay is in my opponent's hand based on this opening.
Does crack the font, peel 2 cards, +1 for the draw step. That's 3 fresh ones for Courtney Smith. They're going to play a Plains before passing the turn back. No double blue, so no Jace. No real counter match to worry about either. There is Gainsay, but don't have to worry about Dissolve. Attack here for 2. That's going to be a Celestial Flare. We'll see if we'll have our first fight here. No, Tidebinder Mage going to bite the dust. Uppel going to just play an island. Going to cast a Judge's Familiar. The little bird that dealt so much in game number 1 is back again.
Those kind of 1-for-1 exchanges over non-critical threats, Justin's not going to fight over that at all. That stuff's, that's all well and good, as long as he has a backup threat to replace it with. The minute where he has nothing to follow up and it's just hold up counter spells, he needs to start fighting because the draw-go game favors Courtney so much.
Yeah. See if Smith has a land to play. There's a Hallowed Fountain. That's going to come into play tap before passing the turn back. Did not want to take 2. Let's see if he takes 1 from the Judge's Familiar. Uppel with a whole bunch of cards in his hand. You have to assume a lot of it's counter magic. 1 damage will be dealt. And he just does pass the turn back. So Smith is going to draw a card.
You can see Justin with the Thassa in his hand, not even casting it, just trying to keep up his wall of counter spells. If he draws a 5th land and then can play Thassa with Gainsay backup, let's say, you might see him to play it, but he's not just going to tap out.
Here's 3 mana. Maybe. Yes. It's a Banishing Light. And Uppel says, that's fine. That's an exchange you're probably happy with. 3 mana to take care of my 1 mana threat. And that's 1 less answer to Thassa.
And Justin with another backup copy of a threat. This is the game plan right here. It's a little tough that he's not making his land drops right now. Courtney, if he keeps making his land drops, maybe be able to just play over the top of counter spells. But for the time being, things are going just fine for Justin.
Frostborn Weird is the replacement threat. That's in play with 2 mana available. Again, that 2 mana represents a bevy of counter spells. Dispel, Negate, Gainsay. So Smith has to continue to tread carefully here. Courtney will reorganize the mana. Going to cast a Jace. Will we have a fight? It's a Gainsay. Will Courtney Smith counter back? The answer is yes. There's a Gainsay to take care of Justin's Gainsay, and now Jace is in.
And this is the risk of playing too much of a counterspell gain when you're falling behind on the land drops, is these sort of sequences.
Jace is going to take down And the split here is Archangel of Thune versus Temple of Enlightenment and Banishing Light. So that means that Frostmourne can finish off the Jace. And Courtney Smith has no interest in the Archangel, so that's going to go to the bottom. So yes, he does get 2 cards, but how good are those 2 cards is the question.
And it's interesting for Courtney to pass on the Archangel, and I think that shows a lot about the way the matchup plays out here. He doesn't want to take this 5-mana sorcery speed card. Justin's too efficient fighting over that kind of stuff.
Just going to play, spin, and take care of the Jace with the Frostburn Weird. Now again, Justin leaving his counter wall up here could have taken the opportunity to deploy a Thassa that turn, opting not to. Here's a Temple of Enlightenment from Smith. And take a look at the top card here. That one's going to go to the bottom.
I think the plan may be just only deploy Thassa when you have the opportunity to counter back.
So Uppel draws a card for the turn. It wasn't Island. He's going to start by attacking with the Frostburn Weird. Says, I have no effects at this point. So 1 damage looks like it's going to come across. Smith looks like he's going to go down to 16. Well, at least Uppel wants to make sure that's the case. There's an island. Is it time for Thassa yet? Looks like the answer is yes. Will we have a fight? Looks like maybe the answer is no.
I wonder what's going on in Courtney's hand. I mean, he could have detention spheres and so forth and not really care too much about this Thassa.
Now this rev is interesting. Because is a rev for 3 worth countering? The answer apparently is yes. But now the shields are down for Uppel, and that means something can resolve, and that's scary. Be it Archangel of Thune, be it an Elspeth.
Even just detention spheres, even the creatures getting swept up is really bad for Justin in this spot.
So he felt as though he had to counter. Now there's a Deicide.
Ugh.
Now does Uppel have a Dispel? And he wants to read this to make sure he knows exactly what this does. And he does not have a Dispel. So Deicide is going to take care of all the Thassas. Again, exile target enchantment. If the exiled card is a god, which of course Thassa is, you get to take them all. And Justin's hand is tipped now too. You see the Cyclonic Rift, you see the Biden of Thassa, and there's a Dissolve.
So Justin's hand really can't handle this, even this Frostbird Warrior getting killed. His hand is all set up.
Makes you wonder if countering that Revelation was correct.
It's one of those things where if you allow Courtney to continue to make his land drops, your counter spells don't even matter. He's going to be able to play over the top and have so many resources to work with. It's one of those rock and a hard place spots. I think Justin did need to counter the Rev, but, you know, obviously has not worked out all that well.
If you're Justin, you got to be thrilled that there's no follow-up play there. You know, that could have been a dangerous situation. As he's going to attack with the Frostmourne Ward, he's going to spin. He's going to pump a couple of times. There's a copy of Celestial Flare. That's a beaten. So away that goes. And Uppel with no replacement threat just yet. So Smith is going to untap. We're going to play a little bit of draw go now. And as you mentioned right at the top, the draw go game favors the blue-white control player.
More mana and more powerful things. And Courtney at 16 life too, you know.
Very healthy. Here's 4 mana. And now Courtney can cast spells into the face of counter magic because he knows exactly what Uppel has, but also he's not under anything pressure. So now he just gets to use, you know, a Jace Archetype as a test spell.
Yeah.
To get the counter spell out of the way. And the Dissolve does have to take care of that because you can't let Jace be in play.
And there's only so many counters in Justin's deck. So yeah, I'll make this trade happily if I'm in Courtney's spot. And if the Jace resolves, that's great too. But he's happy to trade Dissolve there 100 times out of 100.
Uppel with 3 mana. Let's make it 4. Gonna go with a Biden. And now he's gonna follow up with the Judge's Familiar. I like the sequencing there. You already know about my Biden. You know I don't have any creatures in my hand from the Deicide. Well, I've drawn one. It's a Judge's Familiar. And that one's in the sky, works its way around Mutavault, and I can start my card drawing engine.
Well, in the best of worlds.
Yes, yes. 3 mana. There's the Detention Sphere. That's going to take care of the Biden. So no card drawing engine for you, Mr. Uppel. Do get to untap those lands, however. 6 of them in play. Uppel will draw a card. You see his hand. He's got a Cyclonic Rift for Rapidization and the 7th island. We'll see if he does play the 7th island now, or maybe he sandbags it for a little later.
And that's the thing. Courtney knows about the Cyclonic Rift in hand. And that's a pretty bad board to get hit with a Cyclonic Rift right now if you're Courtney. Just in case it's untap, draw 2 cards, and do whatever. So He's got to be really careful here. Does not want to get tagged by these two judges familiars with a Biden in play.
Well, there's a dissolve, so that's going to take care of that. No overloaded Cyclonic Rift yet again. A good try, but does not work out.
And that's the only one in the 75.
Now, of course, Courtney doesn't know that, but we do. Here's an attack for 1. Smith's going to go down to 14. Uppel just going to pass the turn back. Uppel draws a card, gets in here for 1 yet again. Did draw a Judge Familiar for the turn, so he will cast that. One thing here to note is that Uppel in these sideboarding games has not drawn a copy of Mutavault yet. That card's so important in this game plan.
Yeah, Nightveil Spectre and Mutavault seem like the biggest pieces post-board.
Yeah.
Because those are definitely cards that can win the game on their own. And Mutavault gives you so much staying power against Supreme Verdict.
Verdict happy to trade with those two Judges Familiars, dispel the draw. Uppel just going to play a land and pass the turn back. His canned right now, dispel, and that rapid hybridization from earlier. Courtney Smith going to draw a card. We're almost underneath 4 minutes here. Smith needs to try to find a way to win this game. Now that's a big draw from Uppel. He's going to play a copy of Nightveil Spectre.
Wonder what's up with Courtney's hand. Does he have Revelation here? He has not been attacking with the Mutavault.
Yeah, and this feels like a lot like game number 1 where he has a lot of cards in his hand. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Here's 3 mana. There's a Detention Sphere. Uppel's hand forces him to cast Rapid Hybridization. So, a 3/3 Frog Lizard incoming. So he does have an attacker. Not the most stable attacker against blue-white due to Azorius Charm and some other things, but it's better than nothing.
And it is immune to Last Breath. Got to start somewhere. The Drago game does not favor the deck with all the 1/1s in it.
Yep,
so.
this is true. This is true. Uppel draws a card. It's a Frostborn Weird. In for 3 we go. Yeah, there's an Azorius Charm. He's not going to fight over that one. There's a Frostburn Weird. There's your replacement threat. Smith doesn't have a ton of cards in his hand. But if Smith is able to draw some sort of win condition, can just win the game. Elspeth, Archangel.
Under 3 minutes, though. I mean, he's got to get it moving.
Yep. Nothing just yet. Uppel draws a card, copy of Tidebinder Mage, and he comes. It's time to spin the weird. 2. Let's make it 3. There's an Azorius Charm. That goes on top. Tidebinder Mage will be the replacement. Again, Uppel gripping that Dispel very, very tightly here. That Dispel is basically reserved for Sphinx's Revelation.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to be fighting over any 1-for-1 exchanges.
There's a Hollow Fountain. Pass the turn back. Uppel gonna untap here. Take a draw. In with Tidebinder Mage he goes. Smith gonna go down to 11, it looks like. Now the question is, do you deploy the next threat?
Doesn't even contemplate blocking with the Mutavault here.
Yeah, a little surprised. There's an Archangel of Thune. He was waiting for a win condition, and he finally found one, and he's not afraid to cast it. There could be counter magic over there, but he doesn't care. And his read is correct.
It's really rare for them to be able to counter an Archangel. You know, most of the time you're looking at dissolves and gainsays, negates, those kind of counters.
And now Uppel has to deploy his threats. He can't pace the game any further because Archangel wins the race, of course. So now he has to deploy those 2 copies of Frostburn Weird, and this could be a situation where we see Smith go, all right, attack with Archangel, cast Supreme Verdict, absolutely destroy you.
Well, there's still the question of, can Courtney win the game with 1.5 minutes left on the clock and no board?
Yeah.
He might be in a position where he feels he may try to have to race here because he might be favored to win the race and cannot win by Supreme Verdicting and hoping to draw a threat in time.
Well, step 1's attack with the Archangel. Trigger. Gonna put a counter on there, and now there's the Supreme Verdict. So, gonna clear everything up. He gets his life. And does he have a follow-up threat? The answer is no. Now, I'm with you. You know, this is a situation where do you have enough time to win?
Well, here's the thing. If Courtney last turn just goes, animate my Mutavault, attack you, then he has a 3/3 in play facing down a Tidebinder Mage and 2 weirds.
Yep.
So you untap, you take 6, you go to 8. Next turn, you're gaining 4 and making a 4/4. You can also block and just trade with a Frostburn Weird if you want to the previous turn. It feels like the race is just fine for him.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know what I mean? And he has better draws. His draw step to draw step is much better.
Here comes Mutavault. This Mutavault's going to trade with that one. Yeah, this feels like a situation here where Courtney Smith, you know, I don't feel like he's playing the best to try to get to a win in the situation. You know, he has to shift gears a little bit with what he can do. I understand, you know, I brought up the verdict play for that exact reason, but when the clock is a factor, you have to shift gears a little bit, I think. Font of Fortune was able to draw a couple of cards here.
especially against an opponent that's, they sided in a bunch of counter spells.
Yeah.
Your subsequent threat, even if you find it in time, may not resolve.
Beautiful going to come down here for Uppel. There is the Sphinx's Revelation for the full amount. Dispel says absolutely not. So, going to untap everything.
And now even if it's Elspeth here, I don't even know if that's enough time.
Yeah, because now this is turn 1 here for Courtney.
So he gets turn 3 and turn 5. I don't think there's anything left in the deck that can...
He may be turn 0, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have enough time to close the game out. I don't think Justin does either. We're going to turn over some cards here via Jace. You're going to find yourselves a Verdict, a Temple of Enlightenment, and a Dissolve. It'll be Counterspell Versus here from Uppel, and Dissolve will go to the grip. There is a Sphinx's Revelation over there, but we're in turns. Uppel has 1, 3, and 5, and that's not going to be enough to get the job done.
That's the thing, is you have the Supreme Verdict in your hand. That's an insane insurance policy because obviously Justin can't counter it. So you can at least try to race, and if something goes wrong, then you go ahead and Supreme Verdict and you're happy with the draw.
Yeah.
But I believe that Courtney had at least a reasonable chance of winning the game with the Archangel and gave up on that line of play. And now Courtney with a lot of power in his hand. I mean, he's found another Revelation, but again, there's no time.
Yeah, tick-tock went the clock. We're in turn number 3 now. Uppel's going to draw a copy of Mutavault. And I think given infinite time, I think that Courtney Smith would win this match. But, hey, you got to win within the time that is given. There's an island pass, turn back. Uppel's turn number 5, I believe. Yep. And you can fire up that Mutavault all you want, my friend. You can even cast this Jace. There's a Dissolve to take care of that. But we are just going through the motions at this point. Neither player is going to be able to win. They, again, will go through the motions of attacking and all that good stuff. There's the last breath to get that thing off the table. And Uppel will gain a little bit of life, but this one did favor Courtney if there was enough time. And these players may have a discussion about would you like to concede, blah, 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 who knows. But we'll see if it's a draw. We'll see if it's a win or a loss. That's all we do know. So we will bring it back here to the booth when we do have the result. We'll, of course, let you guys know. But an entertaining 3-game match here between Courtney Smith and Justin Uppel.